Welcome to Surrogacy Daddy, the podcast about a queer and ethically driven surrogacy journey. Episode 5, Many Bonds, Few Words. Reflecting on the relationships between power, family, and society, as I tried to do in the previous episode, means questioning the roles and functions of each of us. And at the same time, it's also questioning how to name all these modalities, these nuances. And at the heart of these considerations lies, for a surrogate family, the question of a surrogate's place. And it's extremely interesting and revealing at a symbolic, relational, and emotional level. Let's dig a little deeper into all this so that you can understand what we, your two dads, had in mind even before meeting Diana, your surrogate. In English, most of the time, the term to refer to a person who will carry a baby on behalf of another person is the surrogate. Actually, the full expression is surrogate mother. Surrogate, being originally an adjective, should indeed need a noun next to it. In the Collins English Dictionary, one can find other examples such as surrogate deputy, surrogate home, a surrogate for peace, etc. But in the context of surrogacy, why did we start to substantivate surrogate, and why did we get rid of the word mother? Well, because Diana is not your mother. So who is? Camille? No, as we have seen, she's your egg donor. Where is your mother? Well, Aube, my child, my love, you do not have a mother. I don't know yet what this will mean for you, because right now, being a few months old, all you can know is that you have two dads and that we are here with you every day, that we look after you with love, and that we have two beards, unlike your grandmothers. But in a few years' time, you'll tell us what it's like for you not to have a mother, and we'll talk about it as much as you want. And then in the course of your life, you'll find, I hope, other people who will complement what we bring you as parents. But what I can tell you right now is that for the rest of the world, stories that starts with, I don't have a mother, are always sad stories. The mother died, or ran away, or was not in capacity to embrace her role, or she gave up, or she was rejected. All these are most of the time violent traumas. So when we talk about our family models, which remain very rare, when we say there are two dads and no mom, it always feels a bit awkward and people often have at least a slight pity for the child. But in our family history, there is no mother. And it's not a story that is sad. It's a story that is gay. So Diana is not your mother. And it's important that this is clear for you, for her, for us, but also for the state. Therefore, we think it's a bit confusing to call her a surrogate mother. To clarify everyone's place and role, we prefer not to use the word mother. That is the main reason why we substantivate the adjective surrogate and use it as a noun. In French, the problem is similar but a little more tricky. The most common term to refer to surrogates is mère porteuse. A literal translation would be carrying mother. French has also the idea of mother, but that word has not yet been cut like in English. A lot of people are still using the whole expression, including people who have embarked into a surrogacy journey. The other problem with the French expression is that we do not use the adjective surrogate, which is an interesting and quite on-point description of the reality, the idea of a substitution. We use the adjective porteuse, which, as said, means carrying. As an alternative, more and more French-speaking people start using the expression femme porteuse, which translates by carrying woman instead of mother. This is what your other dad and I use. You see, in English and even more in French, we're really short on words. Just think about that. There isn't even a term to describe you and your relationship with Diana. She is your surrogate, okay, but who are you to her? Well, we cannot say. All we know is that you're not her daughter, you're not her friend, you're not her niece. How can you think things through when you don't even have the words to express them? In a letter that French parents made public in February 2022 on social networks, the surrogate tells the baby how proud and happy she is to have been pregnant and to have given birth as a surrogate. I will read a few extracts of this letter at the end of the episode. She addresses the baby as womb mate. That's quite an expression. I'm not saying it doesn't raise questions, and taken out of the context of the letter, it may come as a bit of a surprise. But with this expression, womb mate, it is easy to see that words are missing in English too. The bonds are here, strong and beautiful, but we don't have the words to talk about them. And as a result, we either don't talk about them at all, or very little, simply because we don't know what words to use. And so we unwittingly contribute to the invisibilization of our stories. Or we talk about them badly with poor or unfortunate words that aren't subtle enough, that don't accurately convey the depth of our experiences and the bonds that unite us. And what's more, by using these poorly tailored words, we sometimes leave ourselves open to criticism, because anti-surrogacy activists always prefer to take offense at what we say badly, rather than to take an interest in what we experience well. Okay, now I'm going to tell you a little anecdote. My mother, your grandmother, kept saying the mother when talking about the future surrogate who would turn out to be Diana, but whom we didn't know yet. And I explained to her several times that the surrogate was not the mother. One day, probably a little tired of this, I almost got angry. But instead, I asked her to explain to me what she really meant by that. Why did she say the mother, the mother? And I really listened to her. She was telling me two things. One, in its development, the baby seeks out and creates an attachment figure which will have a so-called maternal function, and which child psychologists have studied a lot, especially Winnicott. This relationship is created as early as in the intrauterine life. In general, because of pregnancy and breastfeeding on the one hand, and on the other hand, due to the injunction for women to be in the front line to look after children, mothers are more likely to be found in this role. Hence the term maternal function. But in fact, this function can be embodied by a man or a woman, which transgender parents know very well. This function can be held by a parent or not, for example in the case of a very present nanny. And if it is as a parent, the absence of a biological link doesn't in any way prevent someone from taking on this role, as adoptive parents have also known for a long time. As far as we're concerned, in your story, your surrogate Diana was going to take on the maternal role during pregnancy. And we were going to take it on as dad after birth. And it is this recognition of Diana's role that your grandmother wanted to highlight when she said surrogate mother. The other thing that she was pointing out with this was the poverty of the term carrying in the expression carrying mother in French. One day she said to me, "But do you realize that this woman, she's not going to only carry the baby?" And she was right. Diana, she built you cell by cell. She nourished you, protected you, breathed life into you. And all that was a lot of love. Can we take a second to realize that a pregnant person is capable of creating a brain, a heart? And the only thing we end up saying in French is carrying? That is very reductive. Your grandmother is absolutely right. Consequently, we can also question the use of the word maternal to describe this relationship, this bond. It made me think a lot about the adjective maternal, which is used in several ready-made expressions. There's of course the famous maternal instinct, which raises a lot of questions, not to say suspicions, particularly among feminists. Or maternal warmth, which is often heard, especially compared to paternal warmth, which is heard so rarely that it almost feels like it's an oxymoron. And the worst one, at least for me, is mother tongue. Like, we cannot imagine the father being with his child in infancy, so much so that it's not his language that the toddler is going to hear and learn. It's his mother's language. This innocuous expression mother tongue, for me, screams out the chronic absence, intended or not, conscious or not, of fathers with their young babies. It's well known that the role of fathers only begins when kids have to be taught to ride a bike. I found that quite sad and terrifying. We'll talk about that again in a future episode about paternity leave. In the meantime, your grandmother kept saying mother or carrying mother, and we kept saying femme porteuse, so carrying woman. But we both know that behind those words, there's a lot of love and a very great respect for this superheroine woman that is Diana. And also, we know plenty of intended parents who talk in French about carrying mother too, and we wouldn't correct them. They do as they please. It's just not our way of thinking. On the other hand, and this was super clear to us from the start, even if the word is missing, we knew we wanted to consider our future surrogate as family by extension, if she wanted to, of course. And so it was with Diana, who welcomed us into her family just as we welcomed her into ours. We met and spent time with her husband, with her children, with her mother, with her stepfather, her godmother. I'll tell you about your birth in the hospital in a future episode. You'll see, it was a great family moment. I found that we like the words to lexically integrate this family by extension into our core family. We'd have to find something equivalent to in-laws to include the family of the spouse. There's the concept of chosen family that already exists, but you didn't choose your surrogate, so I don't think that's quite right. So how about, for example, surrogate? Or maybe just voluntary family, because that could include, in a general way and without talking about surrogacy, all the people who want to integrate our lives, like your godmother and godfather, for example. And it would force no one during a surrogacy to feel obliged to make a family if there isn't this desire. Because remember that what I'm telling you right now is our story, your story, and nothing else. Sometimes the surrogate and the intended parents thank each other warmly at the end, give each other news once a year or less, and that's it. And it's okay if everybody is fine with that. No need of unnecessary pressure on oneself. So as far as we're concerned, thanks to our surrogacy journey, not only have we brought you into the world, but we've also enlarged our voluntary family with your surrogate and her family. At the event organized by the University of Grenoble, which I mentioned in a previous episode, at one point I asked the question to the speakers. And in the wording of my question, I said something like blah blah blah, and because our surrogate, blah 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 blah. And the panelist, before answering, picked up on it by saying, we could wonder about the use of the possessive our surrogate. It was very quick, but I made a mental note of it. And as she suggested, I wondered about this possessive. I believe that when we say our or your surrogate, we're using the possessive adjective the way we would say your aunt or your grandmother or your family, your community. This link of inclusion, of belonging, in the sense of I'm a part of, and not in the sense of possession, ownership, or a relationship of power and domination. On this subject, your godmother pointed out to me that perhaps the clearest thing would be to use the possessive adjective only to talk about your relationship between Diana and you, your surrogate. And maybe we should stop saying our surrogate and instead say our child's surrogate. I think that's very right. It clarifies roles and relationships. It's really interesting to note all these details, and it shows how important the choice of words and their reception is, and above all, impacts the creation of our imaginary around the realities they cover. I'm now going to read you a few excerpts from the letter I mentioned earlier in this episode. It's written by a surrogate for the baby she has carried for a gay couple. I do not know any of them, but it was published on social networks about a year ago. She talks to the baby in her letter, and here is what she says. I am not your biological mother, but I am the woman who had the honor of carrying you and delivering you for your dad. I just wanted to write you a letter just to tell you how proud I am to have carried you for 39 weeks. While you were in my belly, you were very calm. We loved hot sauce on everything, and we loved to have snacks between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Also, you pretty much hated when I exercised at the gym. You would roll into a tight ball anytime I was doing physical activities. The morning sickness from weeks 6 to 13 of pregnancy lasted all day long. But we got through it together. As you get older, I will always be able to answer any question that you may have. I will be like your auntie from the United States. Always remember how special you are, and how special your story is that got you here into the world. I can't wait to watch you grow over the years into your own person with your own personality and purpose in life. No matter what you choose to do, I know you will be great. And make sure your dad sends me always pictures and birthday invites, even if I can't attend them. My womb mate, you will always hold a special place in my heart. Well, now that the stage has been set, I'm going to tell you about our adventures step by step. And I'll start with how we found the agency that made us meet Diana, your surrogate, and how our first date with her went. See you next time!